A lot of things come to mind when you think of Nagaland. You might think of their vibrant culture, or the popular Hornbill Festival, or even their very comedic education minister, but it's very unlikely that startups come to mind, and there are several reasons for this. The state only has 291 startups and just 5 incubators, according to the official Startup Nagaland website, and the biggest reason for this is that starting up in Nagaland is difficult. There are some pretty big infrastructure problems with unpredictable electricity and unstable internet speeds causing issues, but also extortion is a massive problem there too, which actually resulted in the indefinite shutdown of shops and other business establishments in Dimapur on April 26th of 2024. But in spite of these huge barriers to success, Nagaland's entrepreneurs have persevered. And that's why I personally reached out to 10 business owners in the state to learn more about the resilient businesses that are shaping Nagaland's startup ecosystem. Let's start our journey by heading over to Nagaland's capital city, Kohima, and the first startup from this city is a game development studio called ReDimension Games. So back in 2017, Pekrukhrietuo Pienyu decided to build indie games alone in his bedroom. But things changed in 2018 when he met his co-founder Imlijonghi Ao. Together, they started ReDimension Games with the goal of developing a 2D pixel action adventure game called Sojourn Past. They were later joined by a third co-founder, Loyievi Kennao, and something unusual about this trio is that they all believe in making PC and console games. Now, why is this unusual? Well, in India, the games market is overwhelmingly dominated by mobile games. PC and console gaming is far less popular, but in spite of that, ReDimension Games decided to forge ahead, bootstrapping their game development company and spending just 2 lakh rupees every year. And as is the case with any indie game studio, the journey has been tough, but then they caught a huge break in 2023 when they won the IDGC 2023 Upcoming Game of the Year award, and this was a massive accomplishment in its own right, but it's made all the more impressive by the fact that they were just a small team of 3 from Nagaland at the time. Then though, they went ahead and beat more than 200 competitors to win a place in KRAFTON, India's gaming incubator's first cohort, giving them access to somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000 in funds, as well as the mentorship and support that they desperately needed. They're now a team of 9, and they're planning on launching Sojourn Past at some point in 2025, and as a gamer myself, I just think it's incredibly impressive how far this small team from Kohima has come. Now, speaking of small teams from Kohima, the next company that I want to talk about here was started by one person with just 6,400 rupees in 2016, but today they're making 3.85 crore rupees in revenue in Nagaland. I'm talking about Northeast India's first specialty coffee roasting company called Été Coffee. When Lichan Humtsoe started his first Été Coffee roastery and cafe, he made less than 3,000 rupees in revenue in his first month of operations. He would test out his coffee by giving it for free to family, friends, and potential customers, and he used their feedback to improve his product with each new roast. Today, Été Coffee has opened 2 cafes in Nagaland, serving exclusively Naga coffee to their more than 1 lakh customers. But that's not all, because this business is more than just a roastery and a cafe. They also provide free consultancy services to people who want to open their own specialty coffee cafes. And so far, they've been an important part of enabling 20 cafes to open in Nagaland and Manipur. Now, why would they do this for free? Well, the idea here is that the rising tide lifts all boats. And so by providing free consultancy services, Été Coffee will be able to help Northeast India's coffee market grow. And as demand for specialty coffee increases in that region, Été Coffee will be ready to meet that demand with coffee beans and machines. This is big picture thinking, and it's thanks to this extremely strategic approach that Été Coffee has brought in that 3.85 crore rupees that I mentioned earlier in revenue in FY24, and Lichan has done all of this while keeping his company bootstrapped, ensuring that Été Coffee's growers are not being exploited and also that their employees are sustainably employed. With this strong foundation, Lichan now wants to expand Été Coffee's presence outside of Northeast India and make it a pan-India brand too. Now, while Été Coffee wants to become a pan-India brand, our next startup from Kohima wants to go global by focusing on the local market. Let me explain what that means. The founders of this company, Atoba and Vitanyo Valerie Shuhu, grew up going to church every week, and they had the opportunity to observe the operations of the church very closely, and what they observed was actually pretty mundane. Even today, in 2024, most churches are still using paper records to manage their operations, and this method is not only inefficient, but also prone to errors. Now, most of us would have noticed this and just moved on with our lives, but not the founders of Tabernacle. They wanted to change things, and so they quit their stable jobs consulting for the government of Nagaland and started Tabernacle in 2022. And when I asked the founders why they chose to launch a SaaS startup in Nagaland where infrastructure isn't the best and access to electricity and internet connectivity are far from being on par with the rest of India, they gave me a very insightful response. They said the reason they started in Nagaland is because it was locally relevant and economically viable. And so let me break that down. See, there are more than 2,000 churches in Nagaland alone, and Tabernacle is one of the only companies providing highly customized solutions for these churches. This gave them the first mover advantage, and using this advantage, they were able to establish personal relationships with church leaders, which helped them with their market research. So far, they've onboarded 150 churches onto their platform, and they believe that their SaaS solutions have global appeal too, because the truth is a large majority of churches around the world are run in the same traditional inefficient ways that Nagaland's churches were before Tabernacle showed up. Now, while Tabernacle wants to digitize the way churches manage their operations, our final startup from Kohima wants to digitize learning in schools. Founded by Kevisato Sanyu and Shiroi Shaiza in 2021, NagaEd was actually the first company in Nagaland to receive FDI, that's foreign direct investment. And let me tell you why this small bit of information is actually a pretty big deal for the state. So according to Kevisato, India receives more than $64 billion of FDI, but not a single rupee of it went to Nagaland before NagaEd came into the picture. And that's just insane to me, but that's not the only amazing thing about NagaEd. They've built an entire B2B suite for schools to affordably go digital, which includes tools like a digital learning management system and training for teachers to ensure that this technology actually ends up being used in the classroom because the teachers genuinely understand it. Today, their digital learning solutions have reached more than 10,000 users, but these are still very much early days for NagaEd. Globally, there are 500 million tribal and indigenous people who are often overlooked by traditional businesses. But NagaEd wants to be different because for them, these 500 million people are their total addressable market. And the fact that they're going after this customer base that so many others have ignored is one of the reasons why they were selected as a winner of the TIE 50 this year in 2024. Oh, and also, by the way, they're profitable too. Okay, so now that we've wrapped up Kohima, let's head over to Nagaland's largest city, Dimapur. And the first startup from this city that I want to talk about is called Ilandlo Services Private Limited. Founded by Imtisinap Longchar and Lipokchangda Osakam in 2014, this business is a one-stop shop for all things Northeast India. And the idea here is to provide a single platform for sellers across India's 7 sisters to sell their products pan-India and even internationally. And I'll tell you a little bit about how well they're doing later on, but first, let's talk about the early days of this company, because when they launched their website, they failed to sell a single product for the first 3 months. And even by the end of their first year, they had less than 100 customers. And this wasn't because their idea was bad. Instead, it was just way too early. Ilandlo was ahead of its time because e-commerce was still a pretty new concept in India back then. Companies like Flipkart and Snapdeal were still young, and it had been just 1 year since Amazon entered the country too. And on top of that, there weren't really a lot of internet users in Northeast India because this was still pre-Jio as well. But instead of giving up, the founders doubled down by setting up 3 offline stores in Nagaland because they figured if they couldn't sell online, they would just get their products in front of people offline, and this included locals and also tourists. And in retrospect, this was the beginning of a very strong omni-channel model, and even though it did take time, eventually their strategy was successful. Today, Ilandlo has more than 20,000 registered users on their website, and they made close to 1 crore rupees in revenue in FY24. Now, this number might seem low compared to startups in India's metros, but remember, Ilandlo has done all of this in one of the most remote parts of India, and they've done so profitably too, which is something that a lot of Tier 1 city startups still struggle with. Ilandlo struggled in their initial days because they tried to build their own e-commerce platform in a state with limited internet connectivity. But JoldiPabo, which is the next startup on our list from Dimapur, decided to do things differently by relying on an existing network to kickstart their business, Facebook. So while JoldiPabo was officially started in 2023, Atoho Academy had actually created a Facebook page by the name of Find House Rent in Kohima way back in 2017. And so by 2023, Atoho could see very clearly that the demand for rental accommodations in Nagaland was on the rise as people were leaving their villages and moving to bigger cities in the state to search for work. And so that's when he turned his little Facebook page into a full-on website with the goal of helping Naga people to find rental homes. Now, when they made this pivot to becoming a web platform, they were only able to bring in about 15,000 rupees in their first month. But Atoho kept at it, and today, JoldiPabo is expected to generate anywhere between 55 and 90 lakh rupees in revenue by the end of FY25. And this is because this platform is solving a problem that has largely remained unsolved in Nagaland and other states across Northeast India, where landlords tend to just wait for family or friends to recommend them a tenant instead of actively searching for one. And this makes it really difficult for people searching for a place to stay when they show up in a new city with no network or support system to connect them with landlords. And being an early mover has definitely given JoldiPabo a distinct edge in the market with almost no competition. And just like rental startups in other parts of India, like for example No Broker, JoldiPabo intends to add more services to their rental offerings in the future, thereby creating multiple revenue streams for their business. And also, thanks to their innovation in the region, JoldiPabo even won the eNaga Summit 2023 tech startup competition organized by the government of Nagaland, securing 1 lakh rupees in funding. All right, so this next startup is doing something that I personally love because I grew up with honey. We used to put honey on pretty much everything when I was a kid because my grandfather was actually a honey distributor. And so we would get huge buckets of delicious, creamy honey at super affordable prices. Anyways, personal story aside, traditionally, honey is collected from beehives by cutting beehives down and harvesting honey from them without really paying any attention to the welfare of the bees. Medo Putsuri and Toshienla Jamir wanted to do things differently though. They started JOME Foods in 2021, and what they do is train beekeepers in Northeast India to sustainably harvest wild honey while keeping beehives intact and the bees inside of them safe. And they've also launched their own honey brand, Galho, to sell this ethically harvested honey to their customers. And during their first year of business, JOME Foods sold 5 lakh rupees in honey through their website and also offline channels too. In FY24, their revenue had grown to 30 lakh rupees, and this number is expected to reach 1 crore rupees by the end of FY25 because this honey just tastes better and you don't have to feel bad about eating it either. But this is just the start for JOME Foods because they've set some highly ambitious targets for themselves. They're building apiary management systems, and an apiary is a location where beehives of honeybees are kept, by the way, and they're building these management systems to optimize their honey production with the goal of training over 50,000 beekeepers and reaching 1 million customers in the process. Now, while JOME Foods is busy saving the bees, our next Dimapur-based startup is using Korean beauty products to save your skin from acne. So Toinali Chopi had been suffering from acne on her skin since she was a teenager, and she even used to cover her face with a scarf so that people didn't see her acne. And multiple trips to dermatologists didn't work either. In fact, things only got worse for her in 2016 after she had her second child, and so not surprisingly, Toinali was desperate for a solution. And she was trying out tons of different skincare brands, and that's when she discovered a Korean brand that was really helpful for her skin. And so soon enough, she was running a small business out of her 2 BHK apartment, providing consultancy through her Instagram account and shipping these Korean skincare products to her customers. But this was just the start because she had stumbled across a very lucrative and very unique opportunity as there was massive demand for quality Korean beauty and skincare products, but nobody was selling them here in India. And so in 2017, she officially launched Beauty Barn as a curated marketplace for Korean skincare products. And even though when she started, she was only getting 10 to 20 orders a month, today Beauty Barn is selling 10,000 products every single month, and this is largely online. They do have 2 physical stores as well, but a majority of these sales are coming through e-commerce. Now though, they're planning on scaling up their offline retail business while continuing to provide more Korean brands on their platform. And the cherry on top here is that this is a profitable bootstrapped business, although they are planning on raising capital in the future. And so if you're an investor, keep that in mind. Okay, so coming to our last startup from Dimapur, we have Nagakart, which is an eco-friendly lifestyle brand founded by Nancy Kent in 2021. Nagakart sells eco-friendly and biodegradable products like bags and baskets that are made out of straw. And all of their products are handcrafted by artisans in Manipur, which are then transferred to Nagakart's production facility in Dimapur, where the final touches are done before they're shipped to customers. And growing up in Nagaland, Nancy always had big dreams and wanted to start something of her own. But to her disappointment, when she started Nagakart, her only customers for the first month were family and friends. With a lot of hard work though, by the end of that first year, Nagakart was shipping more than 500 bags a month. And today their sales have increased 10x to more than 5,000 bags a month. And here's the best part. All of their sales are coming through their own website. See, Nancy is an experienced digital marketer, and she's pulled out all of the stops to build a truly D2C brand here, which is, and you can probably guess what I'm going to say here, profitable. And this is especially remarkable when you think about how many D2C brands are actually still burning money to achieve growth in 2024. And with bulk orders now pouring in from the United States and Europe, Nancy Nancy has set her sights on the international market for her locally handcrafted products, which is really inspiring. Okay, so the final startup in our list is based out of a small town called JoldiPabo, and this company is taking the term eco-friendly to the next level. See, most of the fertilizers and pesticides that we use in agriculture today contain harmful toxins that are bad for the soil and also for our health. And so even though they make our crops grow faster and protect them from pests, these toxins get into the food that we eat and enter our bodies with each bite. And so back in 2018, a young botany scientist by the name of Pehao Ding started Ngurie Organic in an effort to solve this problem. Today, his startup has come up with multiple organic farming solutions like their plant organic absorption device, which absorbs toxic chemicals in the soil, and their bioenhancers, which are essentially organic fertilizers that help plants grow without poisoning the soil and our bodies. Today, their organic farming solutions are already being used by more than 200 customers, and they're expecting to make 50 lakh rupees in revenue in FY25. And this is just the start for this company, because they're now working on developing a new product which could help them to increase the growth rates of flowers and plants in dry regions like, for example, Rajasthan. And it's very likely that this product will be a game changer, not just for farmers in India, but also for farmers in the rest of the world too. Okay, so I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'd also invite you to check out another video that we made about the top 10 startups from another northeastern state, Mizoram. And you can find that video in the top right corner of your screen. I really think that you'll enjoy it, and I'll catch you in the next one.